Hi, I'm Gloria Mindock, editor and publisher of Cervena Barva Press. And tonight we are celebrating three authors and their three books. And the first book is An Alphabet of Last Rites by Marc Vincenz. Then we have Fractured Lens by Vijaya Sundaram. And then Thad DeVasie, The Side of Utopia. So I'm very excited about these books, and it was a joy publishing all three of them. And so let's get started with the reading. And our first reader is Thad DeVasie. In 2020, he was named a winner of the James Tate Poetry Prize for his manuscript, Splendid Irrationalities, SurVision Books. In 2021, his project, Year of Static, containing 11 original paintings with accompanying microprose, was published by Go City Press. It evolved into the art exhibition, Love Your Neighbor, in 2022. And I give you that.
Thank you, Gloria. My voice is a little rough. I hope you all can hear me okay. I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to Gloria. When she accepted this work, I had been considering this manuscript for years, literally, and it's a small, and it's nothing huge by any measure, but for me, it was a moment of really believing, and I also owe Tim Sermon, who's on the call, a debt of gratitude as well for just continuing to encourage me and push me. And so, as Gloria just mentioned, the other two pieces, those came, shortly after I first had contact with Gloria, and really, those things came as a result of the confidence that Gloria showed me with this book. So, Gloria, thank you so much. It's meant the world to me, and continues to be as I move forward in my writing. So with that, I'm going to read a few pieces from The Side of Utopia. What makes this, I think, really appropriate, and some timing issues that Gloria and I had for reasons outside of anything that we could control, is that I started painting, as she mentioned. One of my pieces, one of my books contained a variety of paintings, and Gloria kindly put my own artwork, a painting, on this cover, just something that never would have happened early on. And it's just, I felt like so many things just happened for a purpose. Okay, we'll dive in. First piece is called Homesick. As I walked the streets in Siena, I found myself craving Chinese takeout from the old neighborhood, chopsticks in a paper sleeve, sticky rice in a box. On the lawn in Pisa, where I ate a quick bite of lunch, I fancied the tower raised, its dilapidated state reminding me of my study, it too on the brink of ruin. On a gondola in Venice, I felt my heart pang for my city ripe with its own smells, for a taxi ride void of any whiff or appearance of romance. In Rome's piazzas, and especially at the Trevi Fountain, I wished someone who was making a wish would wish that my wish would come true. When you asked me what I wished for, I couldn't bring myself to say I longed to be at home, eating Kung Pao chicken in my study, thumbing through a tour brochure of Italy, dreaming of what it must be like. This next piece is called, Let's Call This Something Other Than What It Is. And you're going to hear a repetition here, and every time you hear a "let's call it," it's in parentheses in the manuscript. So it's kind of a little cue there for you, if you can't see it. Let's call this something other than what it is. A man, let's call him Carl, places a flash drive in a bottle, corks it, and then shucks it into the ocean. Let's call this romance or foolish, romantic or foolish. Carl forgets about this lark of an experiment as the bottle continues its slow journey to a distant shoreline. Let's call this the opposite of instant gratification. A woman, let's call her Carla, finds Carl's bottle, let's call this suspension of reality, and removes the flash drive with no note. Let's call this peculiar, given the amount of storage. Carla is incapable of opening the contents on the drive. Let's call this, for a lack of a better word, suspense. But has shared the news of her finding with her friend, let's call him Topaz, who happens to work at the local police station. Let's call this foreshadowing. Topaz has connections. Let's call this obvious. And manages to open all the files on Carl's drive in hopes of understanding the purpose of its extraordinary journey. It appears Carl is in search of love by leveraging today's technology. Let's call this acceptable, or for the sake of argument, sign of the times. Carla is mildly intrigued. Carl has posted many pictures of himself from a social media platform. OMG, TMI. Let's call this acceptable. Let's call this reality teetering on creepy. Carla is less intrigued. It becomes clear that Carl doesn't understand boundaries or common decency with the use of these technologies. Let's call this disturbing. Topaz is now intrigued. Let's call this his 15 minutes of fame. Carl gets a knock on his door. Let's call this inevitable. Carl's in trouble. Let's call this his 15 minutes of fame, or again, foolish. Carl finds himself in a minimum security facility. Let's call this fate. With great remorse, Carl sends a handwritten letter to Carla for his foolishness and this whole misunderstanding. Let's call this irony. Okay, the next piece is called Improvement District. There are no more storefront windows, no place for peering, for wishful thinking. Cockroaches and punch clocks, a slab out back for a smoke. They all remain, but gone are the storefront windows. And there are children who are none the wiser. They have grown with aisles of toys stacked ceiling high and warehouse fashion. Barbie beside her dream house, it too, bounding with faux windows. Downtown is boarded up except for the pockets deemed revitalized. There, well-pressed doormen slouched behind granite and cherry workstations are viewing monitors, quick to tell every kid, move along, nothing to see here. But they're not after the why or the how come, in search of a history lost. All they care to know is what the doormen watch on their tiny televisions. The naked truth. Stand in the shower long enough without a crazy song to sing, and the worst will come to mind. Plug your ears and all you'll hear is water pounding on the tin-like roof of your balding head. Pity the washcloth as it takes a cruise around your unmentionables. You cannot shave the otter from your face. You cannot scrub the walrus from your frame. This is the naked truth. The problem with heavy thought during the morning wash. The reason for a strong melody and out-of-tune vocals. Make no mistake, they are as necessary as the soap, as vital as the oversized towel on the back of the door. Gloria, how am I doing? Do we have any more time? Or
Yes, you have time.
I'll read this one called A Sharp Saw. Several people in parkas sat impatiently on folding chairs. A man in the front row wore a babushka hat, but no breath was visible. Everyone held it, anticipating the miraculous to occur. I stood on a small makeshift stage, holding a sharp saw. A female stagehand of average size and modest looks kept nodding as if we shared a mutual unspoken language. She moved toward me and climbed into a pine box to murmurs of, "Oh, dear God," as a commotion of chairs quickly followed. Her unspoken language pelted me with profanities as she shut the lid, her head in the clear and feet pushed through tiny round holes. Troubling thoughts swirled my head. Who is this woman? I'm no magician. With or against the grain? As the man in the babushka hat got up to leave, I felt her tug on my trousers and offer a curt whisper, below the line. Take it below the bikini line. And I'll do one last small one here called Cricket Hymn for the Apocalypse. In the distance, we hear crickets rolling up in their makeshift wheelchairs, novices learning to play tiny violins. Surely they don't know the murder ballads or a single funeral march. How could they with their repertoire amputated, all but erased? Yet from this distance, it sounds as if they are composing a gorgeous hymn for the end of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Thad. Next reader. Oh, and before I introduce Vijaya, I just want to say that I'm so happy you read the cricket poem. I love that poem, and I'm a big fan of cricket. So anyway, so our next reader is Vijaya Sundaram. She's currently the poet laureate of Medford and originally from India. She is a poet, musician, singer-songwriter, and educator. Her work has appeared in the Rising Phoenix Press, the Stardust Review, and Tell magazine. And this is her very first book, so I'm real excited for her. And I give you Vijaya.
Thank you so much, Gloria. As Thad said, I owe a debt of gratitude to you. I was thinking those exact same words earlier today. You know, I mean, I'm a woman of a certain age now, and I never really thought I'd publish a book of my work. I've been writing poetry since I was a kid, and I never thought that anyone would catch, pay attention or take notice, and you did. Thank you so much. So this is, and everything happened this year, the poet laureate thing, the book. So I'm really grateful to everyone. So the first poem I'm going to read is titled Shell Life. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. Some days one becomes a shell. The creature that used to be within is elsewhere. This is oddly interesting. One picks at it. There's some pain. The scab is fascinating, all scratchy and rough, but slick with memory, like snail trails leading somewhere, but no one knows quite where or why. On some days, one could face nothingness with ease. Would the shell then get back to being elemental? Make a garden grow? Adorn a god's desk? Becoming elemental again, how soothing that would be. Death needs no drama, no fuss. It just flows along doing its job. So does life doing hers. So I'll get on with it, for I've got some swimming to do before I can find my shell again. And that was that. All right, thank you. So in 2019, I had a horrible accident. I don't mean to get oohs and ahs and gasps of pity or anything like that, but it was horrible. I'd never really been in accidents. So I was riding my bike 1,000 feet from my home, and the sidewalks, are not exactly user-friendly. So there was a bump on the sidewalk caused by a route that no one had taken care of. And I was holding an envelope in one hand, and so that's, of course, partly to my fault. And I fell head over heels over the bars of my bicycle onto the sidewalk, and the next thing I know, I was in an ambulance being taken to Mass General. And, it wasn't a bad feeling. Like, I think it's more horrifying for the people who watched it. I was just unconscious. I knew nothing. I didn't remember a thing. So it was quite interesting to be in that sort of a sort of state of complete unconsciousness. So I call it fish in air. Flying fish over bicycle bars, what single thought flew like a spark through turgid brain and frozen blood? What word, now vanished, formed itself and sliced through evening traffic air like an uh-oh of finality as you struck that sidewalk like a cannon? And why is it that no memory surfaces like a bubble on your lips? If death had come, it would not have hurt. It would have been easy. The hurt would have been for others, strangers left holding your body, waiting for your loved ones. I'm glad you didn't go. Much life is left to wade through, to swim through, to fly through. Hurt exists in bad dream space, but you erase hurt. You go through your life erasing hurt, so that when the time comes, when the end comes, you will go with no uh-oh. You will simply fly away, leaving breath and blood behind, and no sorrow will attend your passing, and you will be a memory, then a memory of a memory, then wink out of mind over other bicycle bars farther away from now. Thank you. Let me choose something. Oh, let's look at On Listening to Dido's Lament for the Nth Time. I don't know if you're familiar with this song. Pardon me if I sing a line of it. When I am laid in earth, may my wrong create no trouble in thy breast, and so on it goes. And it was written by Henry Purcell, so I'm in love with that song. So this is On Listening to Dido's Lament for the Nth Time. Why does hearing a song about a story in Greek and Latin mythosphere, then retold in English, make me, an Indian woman, weep? Purcell makes my pulse dissolve in a sea of sadness. I come from the land of loss and suffering. I come from the land of mythology and dreams. I come from the land where mythological princes went into exile, lost their loves, learned about suffering, found God in the midst of it all, returned to their love, or had their love returned to them. There was hope there. This song is pure sorrow, and pure sorrow is hard, so hard to bear. We hide behind hope, tremble behind tropes, cliches, happy endings to stories we seek, hungry for something we know not what. We know that in the end such endings are scant, for everything ends in death, even love. Yet Dido sings broken, burning with love and betrayal, giving up all for one who deserves nothing, a narcissistic, uncaring ass. There's something beautiful, something absurd, unjust, unfair, unbearable about such love. It has nothing to do with the man she loves and everything to do with Dido. Where's your dignity, woman? I want to cry out to her across time and mythos. You undo all that women should be, I want to tell her, my voice stern and accusing. There's another part, though, where I admire her. I will never emulate her, but I ask myself often, what must it be like to turn to ashes with lust, to die for love? Gloria, do we have time? Thank you. Hi, Renee, nice to see you.
Yes, you do.
Do we have time for more? I don't know how much time you allotted.
Yes, keep going.
I didn't realize it, but I'm nervous. I didn't think I'd be nervous. My hand is a little shaky. I hope you can hear me clearly. This song is called Ruby Song. It's just descriptive, it's lyrical. I crave rubies in my throat so I can sing like a clarinet. The pomegranate in my fridge is tired. I regard it with fondness, my partner in innovation. Its redness is beyond the price of rubies. It calls to me coldly like a clarion, a question shaping its urgent need. Somewhere else a beat sings of redness too, far beyond my ken, I'm sure of it. But it sings a darker red, a somber passion. I will seek it at some other point. I have need of clarity, coldness, red fire, and this other pressing matter at hand, my pomegranate, which has but one purpose, since its other purpose was abrupted when it was cut down from the mother tree. I will answer its call, but not now. Tomorrow I shall cut into it, inhale its weary fragrance, suck its tart juices. The pomegranate will bleed in delight and die on my tongue, and I will sing with a voice like rubies. Yes, poor pomegranate. Even now as I speak, there's one on my table downstairs, and I look at it and I say, I'm going to cut it tomorrow. I will, but it's such a big botheration. You just want to admire the pomegranate, and then maybe one day before it dies entirely, you'll cut it and eat it. But, you know, there are some very clever ways of doing it, which I just haven't mastered. Okay, let's see. This is a sad one. Should I do a sad one or a fun one? Sad or fun? Quick. Okay, well, you can't tell me. I'll do it. Okay. This is called Prism Me. Sort of a pun on prison and prism. Light trapped in crystalline form, hanging from my window, scatters my attention. I climb inside teardrop-shaped pendologs and bind myself to their empty spaces. I could do this forever, while ignoring the piled-up dishes awaiting my mindless ministrations, the piled-up papers awaiting my critical and loving pen, the coiled-up impatience of the dog awaiting my loving attention. Practical matters take up room in a dreaming mind, pierce and scatter focus in multi-directional prisms, and I would that I could drop everything, daring the universe to throw anything my way, knowing I could toss it back. It'd be a game of catch, and no one would lose. I wish I could go under the surface of things, go through the inner and outer layers from one plane to another, and breathe, gill-breathe, all that lies within and without, and which would otherwise drown me. Gill-breathe and swim upwards in an entirely different direction, far from all I know. I long for gills in a dry world. Thank you. Gloria, how are we doing on time?
Okay, one more, and then we'll move on. Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, then there's Catching Holding, Erasures and Illuminations, Hummingbird. Okay. This is you know, we were all horrified when children were separated from their parents and put in cages. Well, not exactly cages, but, you know, all those places where they were herded and just treated abominably. And we just sat and we watched in horror, and we did what we could. We wrote letters and we contributed money, but really we couldn't do anything for them. And this poem is called Here's the Thing. Here's the thing about children in detention centers, abandoned, sick, dying, separated from all that is good. One cannot make poetry from it. One cannot make art from it. One cannot make anything from it, for it is unimaginable. It is an offense against humanity. It makes all other emotion hollow. It makes it hard to live a life that holds meaning. All joys and sadnesses become muted when set against it, and yet we struggle on, stupid, stupefied, stunned by it all. Still laugh, still eat and drink, still find pleasure in daily things. For if only sorrow and horror define us, what's left? So we make music and art, and we sing, even when our voices crack and other cracks form within. Dual consciousness is the new burden all of us carry, as we try and carve out a different vision for all people, perhaps a different life, and work in what ways we can to tilt the balance a little in favor of humanity. And if the horror we see doesn't kill us, the work we do might just save us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijaya. That
So
was
much.
wonderful.
Thank you.
And make sure you're muted, everyone. Okay. Marc Vincenz is a poet, fiction writer, translator, editor, musician, and artist. He has published over 30 books of poetry, fiction, and translation. Marc's work has been published in The Nation, Plowshares, Colorado Review, Willow Springs, Solstice, World Literature Today, and many, many others. He's the publisher and editor of Mad Hat Press and also of New American Writing. And I give you Marc.
Thank you, Gloria. Well, one thing I have to say about Gloria has built up a community in Somerville and spread across the United States and even further abroad. That is just amazingly admirable. And thank you, Gloria, for publishing this book, and thank you for publishing my prior book with you, the Erica Burkhart translations. That was quite a while ago, though. What was that, like 7 or 8 years ago? Anyway, it was time that we did another book together. And this is that book, and it's called An Alphabet of Last Rites. A. The fingers, the soft fingers, almost transparent, abandoned but not cold. A burst, a flurry, a flutter, not unlike anything, any lukewarm harvest you might feed me. The hair in curls and folds, that curlicue on your forehead like some 20s flapper dancer. How the curl reminds after all these years, and the rice on your chin, or the Chinese you ever wished for, gong hei fat choi, sweet fingers, you were all I could have ever wished for. It curls and folds and doubles up and it flies away. The distant cries of the lone crow crossing the cloud bank. C. A word in your ear, please. If all we ever found here were fool's gold, but for heaven's sake, get dressed. We can't have people seeing you like that. We might think ourselves clever. The eyes are dizzied by some unseen fortune. The starling lifts a silver ring with a 24-carat diamond and thinks it's a hard nut. D. And in the folds and creases, much is ironed out, no doubt. All those creams you applied in your lifetime, and the ointments and the multivitamins and the extra collagen and calcium, the cabbage eaten every Sunday, the right light 3 times a day. When the moon was full, you said 1 hour would give you years of wrinkle-free skin. It worked. E. The country we're supposed to be headed for is rich in mineral resources and cheap labor. The country we're coming from is rich in the middle, where all the girth accumulates. It hits you in the teeth when you walk out the door. Never forget, though the last words are inevitably the second go-to. F. Always with the neck extended, as if the last leaf were always the best. A long road rambles within us. G. An extended metaphor like the one I'm using now has to have teeth and flesh. The tiger pacing the millionaire's pool in Bangladesh, for example, and the blood in her whiskers. A sneak peek of early evenings in your swimsuit, martini in your hand, your hair wrapped in a towel turban, and later the obligatory kaftan, the silver pumps that once belonged to Eva Peron. Anyone can become an actress, he once said. but few have become a dictator. H. Eva Peron, Josephine Bonaparte, Catherine the Great, Elizabeth I, Marie Antoinette, Madame Curie, Queen Victoria. Who was it that said, "We are not amused"? I. In 100 years of poetry, how many lives have been saved? You are always the one on the front lines. I can tell you what she with the halo said. She said, "The image took hold, the picture, the world does not forget the bold. He became what people pictured him to be." J. All these beliefs based on reality. Surely it's more important to have faith in the characters while each second passes, souls arise and go. That's what the sun is for. K. All the lights and mirrors, the mannequins and the racks of costumes and masks, all the feathers and the feather dusters. The extraterrestrials have taken off. Actually, they're just at the bar down the road. You tell me, is this something I should be afraid of? L. Whatever she writes for life. A person can believe anything, especially kinfolk. She knew her worth on most markets. So much for life, eh? M. Emboldened, empathetic, empowered, emphatic. Love on the misty lake. N. An announcement of sorts, so derelict. The window, all kinds of catastrophes, even sitting on the sunny porch like someone ready for a journey when a lunatic cyclist crosses your way. Even after the homemade bread and the homemade wine, the wind soaks up your sweat with those passing ghosts. Another good reason to trust in ancient gods. Another reason for all the adoration paid to the sun. Another reason for nailing a man to the cross. And yet another reason to peel off all those profanities and other inclement measures, all facing an indeterminate address, the ultimate success fading out. M squared. Again, another spin around the block. You can spin 100 times, but no, eventually you've got to stop. And when you stop, there are thieves, pirates, dastardly characters who you've only seen on the silver screen. Enter stage left, a man with a sword, in a word, in retort to your repartee from all you've ever been caught, the labyrinth, the minotaur, the headless beast who bumps along the walls of the inner chambers. Out of sight, in a word. O, as in open or opened, released, set forth, an agent of the scarcely proficient, a matter abuser, a bad crop, a lonely money guy, another 100 centuries deep past the stoplights, the reason for treason in the deepest of tracks, the score of Scorsese in the woods, the De Niro in Deliverance, the Pacino on Acceptance, later, the Frodo Elijah Wood. Somewhere there is a pawn of blemished, bleached skin, who breathes the conditional hallows, who follows the snow like a burr caught on fur, like all those who have gone before, and in addendum or annexium, like the Rexium in all his splendor, the boy on the throne in the know more than you know. P. Walking through the marshlands in the old country, sounding out the runaway geese, but all I hear is the hoot of the barn owl, even though it's early afternoon. She has been up all night. You can clearly see the landing strips of the geese that left, and somehow you can still hear their voices on the air. An ornithologist friend once told me that he mistagged half a dozen of them, and they ended up somewhere on the Aran Isles, 1,000,000 miles from where they should have landed. I wonder how many have wedded here among the brambles along the shoreside as I wade home to an empty home Q. A seventh symphony bustles in my head, buzzes in my inner ear, something like the sound of you while we were stumbling in your veins and structures. It's microbial almost, and just like its host, it thrives on soft cheeses. There's no need to pretend we could grasp any of this. R. The second time you were arrested, you looked like a decaying birch tree trying to hang on to its shadow. It took you months to find birds willing to perch on your limbs, even a quick peck. In much the same way it took me months to master basic French. Pardon my French, you said. S. So here we have the essence of it. 5 drams of formaldehyde, 2 of malt whiskey, a shot of drambuie, a flake of chili pepper, a steak in the races, a fly or 2 in your ear. When you're done, no, it's not the size of the pot. Mostly it's the way it's stirred. And when you strain the essence, concentrate the masses in a faint swirl. T. As jazz has been said to cool limbs, like a shot of bourbon, so the blues construes the racing heart in advance. In the same vein, Alan Quatermain set out across the Gobi Desert and encountered not 1, but 2 sets of high profilers, an ancient Illyrian emperor and a newt king embalmed astride a stone throne. Q squared. In line with the caliphate, we follow house rules, everything and everyone duly noted. The war is over. Since when is rightful vengeance a sin? It has been written. There was an old man who lived once on the banks of the Tiber, who in all of his sorcery saw fit to turn rice to flour and flour to flatbread. Watch for those windmills that grind essential elements into one big paste. R squared. Hovering by my curtains, to my surprise, a small creature appears. He's small. He has warts on his nose. He says, "Is this all you do, squire?" I say, "Is this the way you treat a lady?" He says, "Pardon my manners, madam, and, by the way, aren't you lovely, madam?" Mixed dialects, I say, tapping the side of my head. S squared. Sodium sulfate to make your clear white paper. Are those the same old stories? T squared. Me too. Like a herring, schooling around. You, alone again, the daughter of a lighthouse keeper, evening after evening, sending out signals, then maybe a cigarette before bed, overlooking the cool, dark ocean. All night, the waves lap at her shores. In your dreams, you wade through a marsh of razors. It seems someone wants to keep you, just to throw you away. This, in her words, my words too, if I'm honest. Just how many times did they announce it in the megaphone? Yes, you're running late again. May I commiserate with you on what has not been stolen? This strange creature has something to hide. V. Distressing all those elements, generations of money written on a cell, and we, like distant godchildren playing in the sand. If you like, emptiness lies between your legs, just like the crab or the turtle. On these days, the surf is ripe. Don't get too close. She has a knife in her hand. W. Don't we want a peace right now whilst we're still among the living? I could have written this story 1,000 times, but something held me back. I didn't want to tell it in the third person or have it told behind my back, whispered in coffee shops and bistros along the Avenue Centrale among the mannequins and tumbling clowns. This is the non-divine state as you lean over a rose, a measurement of things, if you will, where, how do I tell you this? The only ending is the final ending. W. Why not? X. Hallowed ground skirting along the borders in a green shimmer, with a handful of square stones engraved in such words as the wife of some such died here, or the daughter without a name who lived longer than most, or even after this there is nothing more. But I ask you, what is the definition of nothing? Surely we're all compacted into a whole of our own making. Watch the ducks floating on the pond. Do you hear their prayer? X squared. And yet, for a little hopeful measure, your lips when swung through a hole in the sky, your eyelids when you flutter them, you bet we're all sandbanked, stranded, as if you see through objects. Forget all the infinite tales of the divine acrobats of stars in their sunken facades of fresh fruit or another reason to live. Forget all those things and let's move stealthily toward the reeds. X cubed. And for all the others who struggle against stainless steel piping or the geothermal miracle of the heart at the center of the world, of the blood that flows around the earth at every single minute. Small things, as my mother would say over her fourth martini in the old days, when there was still a connection. Why all this becoming rather than being, she said. Blame Darwin, I said, playing with the fuzz on the back of my arm. There are longings and then there are longings, I said. She said, you think we have all this figured out? And at that moment, she was right. I did. A second later, the day broke and something hard hit my head. When I awoke, she said, you do so ramble on, and still you have a way with words. I swear, it wasn't going to my head. Show me yours if I show you mine, she said. Z or Z, the last in a long line of healers, and a true believer all the way down to your apple core. Of course, you swallowed them all and swore on them. Who could blame you? You'll need to be like this when you leave your life. When the time comes, keep all your secrets tucked in your sleeves and pockets, and in that bundle of hair stacked high like a great baked cake. There are times when I wish I knew the art of icing. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Marc. Can we give the readers another hand of applause? What a great evening. Wow, you guys.